maslaha and maslaha and how it relates to the use of social media and how we can use this social media for maslaha today to strengthen the ties and bonds of the Muslim Ummah. You explained many things, but we have yet to see a platform where Muslims can exchange their ideas and their thoughts. They can sell, they can do educational things. They're using other people's platforms. But is it possible that we can have our own platform where we can control what is coming and what is going? For maslaha to be?
Jazakallah khairan. Question is regarding maslaha and mafsada, which basically means a pro and a con. A pro and a con. Benefit, harm, a pro and a con. Maslaha and a mafsada. Should I go to this place? Should I buy this? Should I get this job? Should I get married to this person? There are pros and there are also cons. Social media, Muslims exchanging beneficial ideas, knowledge, science, buying, selling, trading, etc. We use other people's platforms. We don't have our own platforms. Why can't the Muslims come together, so on and so on and so forth? Jazakallah khairan. And su'al al-mufid, very beneficial question, and it's thought-provoking. Thought-provoking, okay? So there's no doubt, in brief, we don't have a lot of time, is that the Quran and the Sunnah have given a great deal of importance and focus to maslaha and mafsada. The Prophet ﷺ knew who the munafiqs were towards the later years of the Hijrah. He knew who they were. He was given information of the munafiqun. Certain soldiers were sent down, and he did not kill them. He did not put them to the sword. They were not executed for being apostates or traitors of state. And that is because of maslaha and mafsada. And he told his companions, he says, I don't want the people, the Arabs, the other tribes and clans saying, Inna Muhammadan yaqtulu ashabahu. Muhammad kills his own companions. And that's because the people outside of Medina and the neighboring towns, the neighboring nomad tents, right? The other people, they don't know that Fulan and Fulan is a munafiq. All they're going to hear is the man who was in the masjid, dressing like the Prophet, talking like the Prophet, Muhammad executed him. And obviously when you have gossip or news or just information, even if it's not gossip, there are filters, there are levels. Here, 5 people died in a car accident. Then it was 6 people. Then it was 10 people. Then there was a train being derailed. And the next thing you know, it's a whole different story. So they're not going to hear that the Prophet killed the people that were kuffar on the inside. They're going to hear Muhammad killed his own Muslim companions. So how in the world does he want us to accept his religion, leave off the way of our forefathers, the ancient traditions of the Arabs, and he kills his own people? That's a mafsada in light of a maslaha, to eradicate the people from the munafiqeen. So that is just one example from among many that proves that al-maslaha wal-mafsada mu'tabar fi din, mu'tabar fi sunnah. We have to consider that. That's first and foremost. That's in brief. Number 2, the Muslims benefiting from social media and using their own platforms, etc. This is just like anything else. Muslims having maslaha and mafsada in one masjid, sitting and talking, us getting along, agreeing, having unified Eids, visiting each other, helping each other out, supporting each other's fundraisers. Some people can do it, alhamdulillah, and many other Muslims can't. Some people can and many other Muslims can't. For one reason or another. Race divides us. Lineage divides us. Tribe divides us. Clan divides us. Class divides us. Our specific understanding of Islam divides us. There's so many things that divide us. Sex divides us. There was one woman, she was the president of a school, an Islamic school. She came to me, she asked me for some advice. This was many years ago. And she says, you don't know the things I have to go through with being a woman. She says, there's a brother here, he doesn't send his kids to the school because he says, I don't want my kids in the school once a woman runs it. Even though she was educated, she had the degrees, she was the most qualified person to run the school. He says, my children can't be in the school with a woman. And la yuflihu qawman wallaw amruhum imra'a. The Prophet ﷺ says that people who put a woman in charge will never succeed. And then she says, this same brother wants to get married to me, and he keeps harassing me and asking me to marry him. The point of the story is one, is that there's so many different dividers. We can't come together. A sister has a school, a sister is on the board of a masjid, whatever the case may be, I'm not helping you out because you're a woman or because you're a man. A woman's event, no men can speak. No man, we don't need your man advice. A woman can give the advice. You can't relate to a woman that has a baby. You don't know what it's like to have a miscarriage. You can't say anything about it. There's so many things that divide us. You're black, I'm white. You're from Afghanistan, I'm from Pakistan. You're Pashtun, you're this tribe, you're this ethnic background. So therefore we split up. So before we even get into social media, we have to be able to talk and respect each other in a room. And a wise man, he said, very profound word. He said, the mark of a wise person is to entertain a thought without accepting it. To be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. So it's a social media platform. I run a herbal business and you have one. You have a herb, you have a medicine that you use. I think that's erroneous. That doesn't make any sense. But I can listen to you out of respect. And maybe I can learn something from you. Maybe you can learn something from me. And maybe we can work what? Together to benefit the Muslims. And we're going to have to rely on the non-Muslims or those who use pork in their products or alcohol, etc. So you don't always have to accept a thought, just to entertain it, to listen to it, to see what you can get out of it. And wallahi, one of my teachers in Islam University of Medina, he will always just say this: Al-fahmu shay wal-iqtina' shay. Understanding something is one thing. Being convinced of the thing is totally different. And most of us, we don't even understand what we're saying to each other. You have a social media thing, you said blue and orange, oh, you mean this and you mean that. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I mean. But I have not understood. And I'm automatically, I'm not convinced. So before we go that far, businesses, hospitals, clinics, Muslims and being entrepreneurs, working together, we have to be able to do that sitting down on the carpet. So the Muslims have to realize that the shaitan is an enemy and he's going to use race against us. He's going to divide us because of race. He's going to divide us because of gender. He's going to divide us because of you make more money, I make less money. He's going to divide us of the past wars. Your family, they invaded our country. That was 50 years ago. So we have to be mindful of this, and the Muslims have to help each other out. وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ. Allah says, fear Allah. Allah is severe in His punishment. So helping each other upon good is not calculus. It's not physics. It's not some type of outer space system of mathematics. It's simple and plain. If it's good, it's wholesome, help out the fellow Muslim. And if it's bad and it's negative, don't help them out. That doesn't mean I have to agree with you on every single thing that you say or do on social media with regards to these worldly things. So I think that's the first step. And Allah surely knows best. That's in brief. Wallahu a'lam.
Father, how do you find someone for marriage on social media the halal way?
How to find someone for marriage on social media the halal way. Scholars of Islam of today, they talk about these different matrimonial websites. And many of those scholars say it's not absolutely haram to be on them. What you show, what you reveal, what you say, how you talk, etc. It's not absolutely haram to be on them. However, be mindful that it's social media. Be mindful that it's virtual. You can be talking to someone who's a man, who's a woman, someone who's a Muslim. So just be mindful. Take precaution. Take precaution. Ask Allah for His help, and you have to have a filter and a screen. And I believe that it's possible to get married through the internet. I know people who have done it. Many people. Wallahi, they have successful marriages through someone that they met through a matrimonial website. Okay? But you have to have the necessary screen and the necessary filter. Everyone understand this? Last but not least, many people that say you can't be on these matrimonial websites, they're haram, you're showing your face, you're talking to a woman, it's khalwa, it's this and it's that. But they don't realize the only reason why Muslims are on these websites is because in most cases, the traditional way has failed them. And that's because of race, age, color, skin, money, family lineage, difficulty, chase the dunya, go to college, graduate from college, buy a big house, then you'll settle down and get married. And the people, they don't want to live like that. They want to be alone. They don't want to have to keep fighting their desires every single day. They want to have children. They want to have a family. So therefore, they went to alternative means. Just like people buy things on the internet, people travel to places via the internet, they also do what? Find love and romance on the internet, through the internet, halal or haram. Alright, so there are permissible things to do, okay? With regards to someone messages you, assalamu alaikum, first thing is filter. certain things to show you what a person's are in general. And you ask them certain questions. Why are you on this website? Are you looking to date, to find a girlfriend, or are you looking for marriage? I'm looking for marriage. Okay, good. Khayran, inshallah. Next question. Wali, my father, are you okay with this? Are you alright with that? We talk together. They're principles. They're principles. And there is a way of doing it efficiently. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, you can successfully find a wife on social media, and you can find someone who's a totally different person face to face. You can marry someone from your tribe, your cousin, of your same race. You should marry a sister that's from your race. You may marry a sister from your race and you can't agree. And you may marry a sister from another race and you're happy and you have harmony. Tawfiq is only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that tawfiq is not restricted to one means without another. Wallahu a'lam. Tfaddal akhi, Farhan.
Do women need to pay zakat on gold or jewelry? And do they need to pay it, or is it the man's responsibility?
Does a woman have to pay zakat on gold jewelry or silver jewelry? The safest thing to do is to pay the zakat, if it doesn't harm her. As far as is it obligatory, scholars, they differ. And I'm of the school is that there's no zakat due upon a woman's jewelry. And ahadith about a woman's jewelry are either weak or vague in general. And there's no zakat upon female jewelry. Wallahu a'lam. That's in brief. Tfaddal akhi. Tfaddal.
To what extent should a woman be online for the purpose of da'wah and reaching out to sisters who aren't coming to the masjid?
To what extent should a sister be on social media making da'wah, calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I would say, and Allah knows best, Allah tells us in the Quran, وَآتَاكُم مِّن كُلِّ مَا سَأَلْتُمُوهُ. And Allah has given you everything that you've asked Him for. Allah gave you all that you have asked for. How many blessings do we have from Allah Azza wa Jalla that we didn't ask for? A little or a lot? Huh? A little or a lot? Did you ask to breathe? Did you ask for this? Did you ask to be like that? But Allah says that He gave it to us. The scholars of Islam, they say, إِنَّ الْحَاجَةَ تَقُومُ مَقَامَ السُّؤَالِ. A need takes the place of a question, of asking of a request. So, be on social media calling sisters based off of them asking you and based off of their needs. So if they say, please give us a lecture, or make a group, or a podcast, or whatever it may be. Or they don't ask you, they're too shy, they're too embarrassed, but you know that they're doing this, and they're falling into this, and they don't know that, and they need to be reminded. So do it based off of haja, the need, haja. If there's a need to give dawah to the sisters, which it is, alhamdulillah. If it's a need for you to do it, you have the proper qualifications, and you're aware of the traps and the snares, then do it. And if that's not the case, if there's no need, or there are others who are doing it and you're not needed, then stay away from it and minimize it. At the end of the day, as long as she's covered properly, as long as she's saying that which is correct, then she can use these platforms. But like we said, social media just isn't someone seeing you. Someone can hear you on social media. Someone can read something on social media. You can forward things. You make tabligh. You convey on social media. So there are different levels. Can a woman sit in front of a television, sit in front of a camera and speak and talk and laugh and joke and smile? That's a discussion. That's an issue. Can a woman have a podcast? That's an issue in itself. Can she sit and talk and laugh and be herself in a public video in which men can watch, even if she's covered up? That's a mas'ala. Can a woman be in front of men and women giving dawah? That's an issue. Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah was asked about this issue. A woman doing lectures in the masjid, that's a discussion. But the concept of dawah, of conveying, that's open for everyone and for both sexes. قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنْ اتَّبَعَنِي وَفِي ذَلِكَ النِّسَاءُ وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ.
Yeah, if you use social media though, there's certain things that you can't control. For instance, these companies out there, they take your information, they combine it, sell it to other people, they manipulate it, and try to sell it back to you to manipulate you to do something that you wouldn't have otherwise done. How do you protect against this?
Questions regarding how to protect yourself from being manipulated or victimized with regards to people taking your information, where you live, or other pieces of information, selling it back to you, taking advantage of you, etc. This is a reality, but it can happen without social media as well. You go to the doctor's office, go to the post office, you go to the supermarket. Every time you buy a product, they make a sale. That's a piece of information, that's data, that's data. They notice that people are buying this granola cereal, and you bought 3 boxes. Now they come out with another one, and this, they make it smaller. So there's always going to be a way of getting tracked. That's the point I'm trying to get to. So fear Allah the best way you know how. Take it with a pinch of salt, a grain of salt. Get on social media with an agenda, and leave with an agenda. And never just be out there floating, surfing, just floating around on social media, looking and just floating around, have an agenda. Point A, point B, khalas, that's it. Everyone understand this? And beware. And Allah Azza wa Jalla, He has informed us in the Quran, إِنَّهُمْ يَكِيدُونَ كَيْدًا. They will make a plot. وَمَكَرُوا مَكْرًا. They made a scheme.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
I have a question for you about teenage children and a little bit older in their early 20s. We're holding off on our 2 children from getting married until they get their diplomas. In today's society, if you don't have that piece of paper that says associates, bachelors, masters, you have nothing. It's very hard to acquire a job in the society that we have right now without some form of degree. In college, they're in their prime age to want to get married. How do you detect and convey that to them that we need you to at least finish your education? They're not working, not bringing an income in, and yet their desires are very strong. How do you encourage that discipline for them to finish their education? At least so that they can advance in their livelihood.
Clear. But with regards to teenagers, adolescents, young men and women, 18, 17, 19, 20, etc. They want to get married, they need to get married, they have desires, but they need to have a basic form of education, a diploma, bachelor's, associates. And without a degree, it's very, very difficult and hard to find a decent job, a good paying job, to live just with your neck above water, etc. How do you explain to them so on and so forth? There are different ways of looking at it, Akhi. It's a very good question, practical question. And I'll say to you, is that if you have Muslim youth, you're supposed to have taught them and trained them before they reach that age. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, teach your children to pray when they're 7. If they don't pray at the age of 10, physically discipline them. And don't allow them to sleep under the same cover in one bed. The Prophet tells children to pray at 7, even though they're not of age of puberty. It's not obligatory. And that's because the Prophet ﷺ in this hadith is not speaking to children. He never addressed children. He never said children will get beat. You'll get a beating if you're 10. He's only speaking to the grown-ups. And he's trying to teach and tell the grown-ups, instill in them these good things before they are of the age of exploration and fascination and rebellion and experimentation. Teach them the good values when they're young. Mold, bend, spin the clay before it dries up. Because once the clay is dry, there's nothing that you can do. You have to make the vase while it's spinning, while the clay is wet. Correct? So that's first and foremost. Now you may say, well, that's too late. My son is 19. We're not going into the past, but we're telling people not to make the mistake in the future. Your son has to be taught the responsibility of money before it's time to make money. Your son has to be taught the responsibility of patience. He has to be taught that you have to earn what you want in this world before he's of age. And I know as a fact, many of us, we don't teach our children responsibility. We give them. And we think that we're doing them a favor by making their life comfortable for them. We think we're helping them out by buying them sneakers and clothes and video games, stuffing their bellies, giving them cakes and candy. We think we're being a good parent. We do. But in actuality, if there are no strings attached to all of those blessings and bounties, you're spoiling your son or your daughter. And you're not teaching them the value of $1. I'm not giving you nothing, son. Go out and work. Sell lemonade on the sidewalk. Do whatever you have to do. Make $5. I have the money for you, but I want you to know what it feels like to sweat. I want you to know what it feels like to appreciate your own. And from that is responsibility and patience. And they're 2 key ingredients of getting married. I know that you have lust, because I was once 18. I know that you're running crazy. I know. but you have to have sabr. Number two, in Islam, you can't just have a girlfriend. You just don't have a woman you sleep with and that's it. There's responsibilities, son. And if you get pleasure, you have to pay the price of responsibility. But if that's too late, my son, I was in jail or I wasn't a Muslim when he was younger. It's too late. He's 18, he's 19. What do I do now? Look at an eggshell. You go to the refrigerator, you want to make some eggs for breakfast. An omelet, scrambled eggs, poached eggs, whatever type of eggs you like. You take the egg out the carton and you accidentally drop an egg. We know that gravity pulls the egg to the ground immediately. What happens to the egg? Cracks at best. At best, it's just a little crack. You can pick it up and put it in a pan or the bowl. And if it doesn't crack, then it does what? It shatters. And it makes a mess. And that could have been the last egg in the carton. Or there were only 2 eggs left. 1 egg is not enough to feed me for breakfast. Once the egg is cracked and splashed and splattered, you can't put it back together. Humpty Dumpty. It's a childhood story that we learned. There's a reality behind that story. And that is when your 18-year-old son falls into the haram, falls into this, falls into that, getting him back, repairing him, fixing him, getting him to do it the right way is very difficult, if not impossible. So argument's sake, worst come to one. Worst come to worst. Son, you're supposed to finish your degree first. Dad, I got married. I didn't tell you about it. I was about to fall into zina. That's better for him than him finishing a degree and having a girlfriend for the 4 years. That's better for him. Even though it's going to be difficult later on. He has a child to take care of. He can't go on. He can't do this. He can't play this sport. But his soul being protected, his mind being protected, his eyes being pure from zina, and if not zina, looking at the haram stuff on the internet, it's better for him. So you have to realize you're between a rock and a hard place. And in a rock and a hard place, you have to sacrifice. You got to sacrifice. All right? So therefore, teach the child, instill in the child how to be patient, how to fast. Help the child out. Son, you go get married. For 6 months, I want to pay your rent. For 6 months, you can stay with me in the basement or the attic or in your room. I'm going to help you out. After the 6 months are up, you have to get out of my house, son. But I'm going to help you out for 6 months. Save up your money. You as a father, it's your responsibility to teach him, to show him, to mold him, but to be merciful and compassionate. And that's because you didn't do everything right when you were 18. When you were 19, you made foolish mistakes. So don't be so critical on your son and your daughter. And the most dangerous thing is them falling into that haram black hole and never coming back out. Education, jobs, career, you can always come back and do that later. But once your heart is stained and you're out there, it's very difficult to come back in one piece. You can patch it up, but the cracks are what? They're going to be there. So that's my advice with regards to that situation. And last but not least, to have a degree doesn't mean that's the only way of getting a job. You can have a good paying job with benefits without a degree. You can make money. You get many trades and vocations and skills without an actual piece of paper. Wallahu a'lam.
Another saying, what kind of haircuts are allowed?
Right. What type of haircut or what types of haircuts are allowed in our Islam? The general rule is you can wear your hair however you want to. The general rule. You want to have long hair, short hair, bald head, fade, braid, cornrows, plaits. The general rule, afro, curly, the general rule is wear your hair like you want to. Unless there's something that specifically says no. The Prophet ﷺ says, don't have this hairstyle. You can't have this hairstyle. If we have specific text, then we can't have the hairstyle, even if it's popular or it's cool or looks nice. As far as if there's no text, and it's culturally accepted, and there is no cross-contamination of gender, Bismillah. So we have many cultures in which men have long hair, and the men do not imitate women. It's known that he's a man, it's known that he's a warrior, and he has what? Long hair. So you can't come and say you can't have long hair because Sheikh said that men who have long hair imitate women. That's among the what? The Arabs, their society, but not in this society. Or a person comes and he says, the kuffar have this haircut. It's a style of the kuffar, it's imitating the kuffar. And the person says, well, I used to be a Kafir, I used to be a Christian, I became a Muslim. My whole entire culture, my diet, my cuisine is based off of the what? Kuffar. So I have to adopt another culture? That's difficult. So specific text from the Sunnah prohibiting a haircut, clear. If there's no specific text and it's open, as long as it's culturally accepted. And someone sees you walking down the street and they know that you're a man and not a woman. Someone sees you walking down the street and they don't think, oh, you're a little this or you're a little that. Someone sees you and they realize that you could be a Muslim, you could be a Christian, you could be whatever. This haircut is not associated specifically with Christians or Buddhists or Taoists. Everyone understand this? Last but not least is how you rock it, how you wear it. There's some men that have short hair and they're homosexuals. Blatant in public. Their arms are bit and broken. It's being honest. They switch, they talk a certain way, wallahi. And they have a short haircut. And there are other men who have longer hair and they're clearly what? Masculine men. Straight men. So it's not just the haircut, but it's the association. And the same applies to a woman having short hair. A woman can have a short hairstyle, she wears earrings. She wears lipstick. She has on a dress, her shoes, and everything about her depicts her as being a what? A woman, even though her hair is what? Short. And you have another woman that's playing basketball, or volleyball, or softball, or wrestling, or MMA, and she has a ponytail. And you see the way she moves and talks like a what? Like a man. So it's not just the hairstyle, but it's what is associated with the what? With the hairstyle, unless it is a specific dalil stating yay or nay. That's the rule. What you like, what you prefer, that's a different story. What a sheikh or scholar says is a different story, but the rules are the rules. And Allah surely knows best.
Fadl Akhi, you mentioned before about the social media du'at, how they spread falsehoods and so to sympathize with the falsehood. How do you filter out the truth from the falsehood?
How do you filter out the truth from the falsehood? I have 5 golden rules that I've thought about myself, come up with, and put together. I think these are golden rules for a 9-to-5 Muslim, a layman Muslim who drives a bus or a train, or a beginning student of knowledge. 5 golden rules. Number 1 is sincerity. Sincerity. Number 2, sound fundamental Islamic knowledge. Number 3, common sense. Number 4, intuition or gut feeling. And number 5, blindly following someone that you trust. If you implement these 5, inshallah ta'ala, I don't see how you could go wrong on social media. Who to take from, who not to take from. So someone says on the channel, I've been warned against you. Don't take from you, you're deviant, you're so on and so forth. But I'm confused. And I don't know, and I'm not sure, and I heard this beneficial lecture, I don't know. Use those 5 points against myself. Number 1, al-ikhlas. Love or hate for who? Allah. Only Allah. Only Allah. The reason why I don't like you is for Allah's sake. And if my closest friend, my husband, my wife, my teacher, this one did the same thing you did, I would also what? Hate them. And not turn a blind eye, turn the other cheek. Al-ikhlas, be sincere. Love and hate for the sake of Allah. Your intensity of love and hatred, is it for Allah? You see a non-Muslim, a mushrik, you smile for them, you say things to them, you have friends. But a Muslim who may have made a mistake or an error, or people are saying it's a mistake and error, you hate them with the utmost intensity. You can't be serious telling me that that hate is for what? The sake of Allah. It's impossible. Point number 2, use common sense. A person says, we heard you said this about these people, and we said this about that people. Okay, maybe. You look at the video, you listen to the lecture, you clearly see this, you clearly hear that. The brother is clearly from this background. He says, well, Mufti hates all brothers that are from Somalia. And he says this and he says that. But in the video, he sees what? He sees a what? Brother from this country, from that country, from this and that. So that's not, you're no longer using what? Common sense. The claim is no longer based off of what? It's just rejected now. What you're saying is silly. This person is calling to bid'ah, is calling to this, and the class that you're watching is from Sahih al-Bukhari. It's just against common sense. Number 3 is the fundamentals. When you know the basics of Islam, there's certain things that you'll never ever be able to accept. So this person is saying that I have to go to one person for a question. I have to ask this person. He can't give an answer because he's this age or from this country. But I have learned the basics of Islam. That's impossible. Because I know I've read the Quran says this, ask those, if you don't know, so on and so forth. So what you're saying goes against not scholastic research, but what? Basic sound fundamentals of Islam. After that is your intuition. What do you feel like deep down inside? Something doesn't feel right about this lecture, this speaker, this channel. I don't know. It may be right, but I just don't feel what? Comfortable. And stay away from it. Or the opposite. I feel good when I listen to this. I feel inspired. I feel close to Allah. That was major. That was nice. I like it. I want to pray. I want to see Him. That's a sign from Allah. The Allah is sending you. And when you ignore your intuition, you're ignoring Allah's blessing. Last but not least is following someone that you trust. So I've implemented the first 4 principles, and I'm still unsure. I'm uncertain. I ask you, Akhi, what do you think about Brother Fulan? Proof, no proof, he said, listen to him. I trust you. I know you. I don't think you will ever mislead me. I'm now going to what? Take what he says and follow it. And he could be mistaken. He could lie to me. He could be misinformed, but I trust him. So I'm going to now do what? Follow his advice. With these 5 principles, I think you should be able to filter out and weed out a lot of people that you shouldn't be listening to and watching online with those 5 principles. And Allah Azza wa Jalla surely knows best.
So I think if a sister goes to a wedding and there's no free mixing but there's music and dancing, is this permissible?
Going to a wedding without free mixing, there's music, there's singing and dancing, isn't permissible. Don't discriminate between something which is haram. There's no discrimination between haram. Like we explained, Shaitan, he doesn't matter or doesn't care how he gets you to disobey Allah. إِنَّمَا يَدْعُو حِزْبَهُ لِيَكُونُوا مِنْ أَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. He only wants one thing from you, that's to disobey Ar-Rahman. So there's no free mixing, but there's drinking. There's no drinking, but there's free mixing. There's no free mixing, there's no drinking, but there's music, etc. If it angers Allah, if it's against the way of His Messenger, the rule applies. However, advice, avoiding it, staying away from it, but at the same time giving your rights to the family, that's a different discussion. But the point is, there is no discrimination with regards to haram. There's no discrimination. If it's munkar, then it's munkar. Wallahu a'lam.
That's a question, Sheikh.
Faddal, akhi. Alaykum salam wa rahmatullah.
This is regarding Dunya's responsibility. If a Muslim fails to pay rent on time or does not pay rent, because he says that the Muslims overseas do not pay rent until the end of the month and does not pay the rent at the end of the month, how do you go about that?
Muslims not paying rent. The Muslims overseas only pay rent at the end of the month, etc. My advice is to tell this Muslim, inshallah, they're trying to be a good Muslim. And the best way of being a good Muslim is to read the Quran. And the longest verse in the Quran talks about writing things down. The longest verse in the Quran does not talk about Tawheed. The longest ayah in the Quran does not talk about jihad. The longest verse in the Quran does not talk about the ulama and ilm, abadan. The longest ayah in the Quran talks about writing down contractual agreements. فَاكْتُبُوهُ. Write it down. So therefore, you're the landowner, he's the tenant. You agree, you'll pay on the 15th of the month. If you're late past 3 days, you're fined, kada, kada, kada. You sign that paper, you agree, you're now forced to obey and adhere to your contractual agreement. Period. وَالْمُسْلِمُونَ عَلَى شُرُوطِهِمْ. The Prophet ﷺ quote, the believers have to stick to their agreements. So overseas, insignificant. Or some brothers say, well, Sheikh Fulan told me I don't have to pay the rent. Brother Fulan, student Fulan, he told me I don't owe you money. That's fine. May Allah bless Sheikh Fulan and Brother Fulan. You take this contract, inshallah, and you show Sheikh Fulan and Brother Fulan. You agree to pay me on this day, and that is what you must do. We're not even talking about religion. And right now, I'm not your brother. I'm your landlord. So you got to pay. So remind that person and teach them that's what Islam gives us. It's to stick to the contractual agreement. If he says, well, overseas they're better, Sheikh Fulan knows more than you, that's fine. Go back to the clause. If you refuse to pay such and such, you will be evicted from your apartment. And that's it. Don't fight him, don't argue with him, don't tell him that he's wrong. Maybe the Muslims overseas do pay at the end of the month. Say, but we agreed on the 15th. Period. And if you think that that's wrong or that's harsh, read the longest verse in the Quran. It's about money. The longest verse in the Quran is about money and about debts and fulfilling the agreements that you made and paying back the debts. Wallahu a'lam. And that's not an accident why Allah gave us that ayah. It's not a what? It's not an accident. Wallahu a'lam. Fadl akhi.
Assalamu alaikum
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
My question is about wearing brands that associate with like Greek mythology when it comes to goddesses and gods and whatnot. Like Nike, it associates with goddess of victory. What do you say about that? Like, is it
Wearing brands. And alhamdulillah, brother, he just walked in with a Nike sweatshirt. Interesting, huh? Like, wearing brands that are associated with logos and names of Greek mythology, such as Nike, the goddess of speed, the goddess of victory, etc., etc., etc. Jazakallahu khairan. In brief, I don't consider it haram to wear Nike. The name, the check, the swoosh, just do it. Number two is that if a person says it's haram to wear Nike, maybe it is, but it's also haram to wear many other things that are based off of Greek gods, Nordic gods, Roman gods, pagan deities. From the car that you drive, the car. There's Adam and Eve, and why they were kicked out of paradise, and what happened, or whether it's homosexuality and two men loving each other and being caught and discovered. Read the history of Apple. Don't take it from me. It's not a sure what. Read it. You'll what? You'll find it. Bidin ta'ala. So, if you take that rationale, then you also have to apply it to what? 50 other things. And if not, now you're just picking and choosing what you want. And that's obviously a problem. Rule number 3 is, what's meant by Nike being the goddess of speed or victory? Was it the check mark? Or was it the name? And is the name pronounced in ancient Rome and ancient Greece Nike? Or was it said and pronounced in a different way? Just like there are other names that come from religious backgrounds. Michael, Victoria. And there's so many other names and titles saying hello, saying goodbye, that are based off of Christian practices, Roman practices, Greek practices. But it doesn't mean that they were actually saying Nike. Nor does it mean that Caesar or this person was walking around with a what? A swoosh on his toga or on his leather sandals. You have to be mindful. Wallah, you have to be serious. The name is one thing and the check is what? It's a different thing. Alright? So with those 3 points, and Allah knows best, or the 2 points, obviously the 2 points leading to the first point, in my opinion, I don't think it's haram to wear Nike. And things can change. Things can have an origin, but it doesn't mean that it remains today. Thursday is based off of the worship of Thor. The mighty Thor. It was the day in which you devoted to worship Thor. That's called Thursday. And people will say that the first people who discovered North America were Vikings. You think it's an accident why they call it Thursday? Thor's Day? Who says you can't say Thursday? You go to work, you have to say, I want my paycheck on when? They're not taking Khamis out. At the end of the day, if you have doubt, leave it alone. Don't wear Nike. But the problem is forcing your view and opinion upon others. That's what I'll say, don't do. You don't want to wear it? That's fine. But don't tell the next man that it's haram to wear Nikes. Absolutely. Wallahu a'lam.